So what was it for you? Like, at what age were you when you first like got into bodybuilding, fitness, or anything? Because this hasn't been looking back on like kind of your journey and following you through social media. This wasn't something that was always a thing with you, right?
Yeah, I mean, I was always an athlete. So I was born here in San Antonio, actually. And I was a wrestler from the ages of 15 to 18.
Really?
So for a majority of the time, I was the only girl on an all boys wrestling team. It's not very like common for women to be wrestlers, especially like in Texas. So that's where my journey really started. And I eventually moved away from that and went completely in the opposite direction to become a makeup artist and a hairstylist. So I moved to Austin to go into beauty school and did that, went through the whole education process, got a job, got my dream job in Austin, and I was doing it and I was just like, when is this going to become everything that I expected it to be?
Right.
And I kept saying like, I'll be happy when. I always like to use this with like the clients that I coach. It's like, I'll be happy when syndrome. You know, I'll be happy when I lose the weight. I'll be happy when I get the guy. I'll be happy when I compete on stage. And what that does is it really holds your happiness and prolongs it for like a specific date.
Yep.
And then most of the time when you get there, you're still not happy. So that's what happened. I ended up moving past being an assistant, being a stylist, everything that I thought I ever wanted, and I still wasn't happy.
Right.
So I wasn't only happy with like myself and how I was presenting myself to the world, but the job I was doing just wasn't fulfilling to me. And I started working out again, and then eventually changed my physique, which changed my entire life, which is why I'm here now. I never had the intention of becoming a pro.
Right.
I never even wanted to bodybuild. And then that's just kind of how it happened. And I started realizing I'm kind of good at this thing.
Right.
I was like, I think I could take this a lot farther than I realized. So that's when I decided to start bodybuilding.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
The what you said about I'll be happy when. So I work with people every day with like drug and alcohol field. And so people have this tendency in my field to think once they get sober, or they'll be like, all right, you know, I just need to get the girl. I need to get the job. I need to get my car. I need to get the guy, whatever it is, like these external things that you feel are like going to make you happy. But I needed to see, you know, in my case, I wasn't happy with myself.
Yeah.
All these external things, it was just empty.
Yeah, they're just Band-Aids.
Right. And so very much in my story, when I got, you know, first I got involved with running before I had ever discovered the gym. And I got involved with running because I was afraid to go into the gym and let people see I didn't know what I was doing. Yes. I didn't want to feel like I looked stupid. And so I train people every day too. And so that's like the biggest hurdle I see is what keeps people away from the gym is they're afraid to come in and feel like they look dumb, you know, afraid to get vulnerable. But it completely transformed my life when I did get in there, started figuring it out, and then became this, wasn't anything I thought I'd ever get into, but it became the first topic in my life where it's like, once I discovered it, I couldn't get enough information.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Constantly reading stuff, constantly watching reputable people that are educated and doing this stuff. And it transformed my life. Definitely. So I feel like a lot of times on the podcast, I talk about fitness or the gym, but it's a direct correlation between like how I'm doing in the gym and how I'm doing them in life. You
It's
know
so true. I mean, for lack of better words, I usually say that fitness is the gateway drug to personal development.
Yeah.
Because a lot of our fitness journeys, they start from a vain place. You know, you're not happy with the way you look. You're not happy with the way you're treating your body and feeding your body. So it does start from a place of, I'm not liking what I'm seeing in the mirror, and I want to change that. And the way that you do look on the outside does affect how you show up in life.
Yeah.
So it did start from a place of that. And I started getting more confidence because not only was my physique looking better, I was healthier. I had more energy. I was nicer to my family. I was nicer at work. And I started I started radiating this positive energy because I was now okay with myself physically and, you know, internally, that it was radiating to people around me. And they're like, I want what she has. Yep. And I was like, it literally started from me just going to the gym, being my word, and staying in integrity with the things that I say I'm going to do when I'm going to do them.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to just be fitness.
Right.
It could be your business. It could be with your relationships. It could be a bunch of other things.
Right. What originally got you into wrestling in school?
My brother.
Really?
So I am 5'2", and I tried out for the volleyball team. obviously that wasn't going to work out.
Right.
So I didn't make it, and I was really, and this was like 8th grade going into 9th grade, and my whole identity was being an athlete, and I didn't make the team. And I was like, what do I do? Like, I don't know what I should do. And my brother had already been in wrestling for a couple of years because he was 2 years older than me. And he started like practicing his moves on me, because I always like to say I was my older brother's younger brother. He never had, because he was just surrounded by girls. Yeah. And he would practice on me, and I would keep up, sometimes even be a little bit better than him, I'd like to say. And he's like, Julia, you got to join wrestling. And of course, being a girl and, you want to fit in, you're in high school, it's already weird and awkward. Right. I was like, no, people are going to make fun of me. I got to do something like volleyball or like dance. Like there's no, like, are there any other girls that do it? And he's like, no, but I think you'd be like really good at it. So I actually body slammed one of my friends in 8th grade because we were like wrestling. It was the summer. I still hadn't made a decision of what I was going to do. And I picked her up, and now I know what like the move is because I learned it. Picked her up, body slammed her, and she like had the breath knocked out of her, and like everyone was like hovering over her, like, are you okay? Are you okay? And in that moment I was like, I need to do this. I think I'm gonna be good at this. Right. She was fine. Okay, she was fine. But then I started doing it, and I absolutely loved it. My brother and I got really close doing it, and taught me a lot of lessons that I now take into bodybuilding. And we ended up, his senior year and my sophomore year, we were captains of the wrestling team together. Really? So it was really cool. Yeah.
Wow. What a special thing between a brother and a sister. Mm-hmm. So we had talked before we had started the podcast, and I was telling you a little bit about the film that they did with my story. And so one of the big portions of the film is me rebuilding the relationship with my sister. Because I had strayed for so long and been away for so long. I had missed so many milestones in her life where she was just operating as if she didn't have a brother. Yeah. And so when I got sober and got back into her life, it was pretty difficult to work back in there. And so just hearing that and thinking about having that with my sister would have been amazing. And then the fact that you became captain and everything like that.
Yeah, it was so cool. It was really cool to be like that. He has a lot to do with like my journey now, because if it wasn't for most younger sisters, typically they look up to like their older brother when they do have an older brother, or if it's like an older sister, like you look up to them. And I looked up to him a lot. He was very like charismatic, always athletic, very, very smart. And I admired those qualities in him. So when he gave me the validation that you can do this, who cares what anybody thinks? Right. And I think you'd be really good at it. Like now I'm also in another career where it's not normal for a woman to do this. You can get a lot of hate. And I've taken it very far from him as a little girl saying like, I think you'd be good at this.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think growing up doing the wrestling, and I'm sure there were people that said stuff or anything like that kind of conditioned you to be able to get into this and be as successful as you are?
Yeah. I also did that in softball. And a lot of people have some types of feelings about softball. So I did these sports that were like not feminine. Yeah. So I got called like weird names that I won't say on the podcast because it has nothing to do with, it's like, okay, call me that. I don't really care. Yeah. But more people thought it was really cool. Yeah. And I feel the same way about bodybuilding. Either people say, you've lost your femininity, stop building muscle, that looks gross, or they think it's really cool. It's like, it's 50-50. So you just kind of have to be okay with your choice and know that you're doing this because you love it, and what everybody else says doesn't matter. Yeah. Because ultimately, if you let what they say dictate how you live your life, they're ultimately getting exactly what they wanted out of that comment.
Right. Yeah, I've started to kind of navigate this world the more we do the podcast and social media grows. I was never a social media person, or never thought myself to be, putting the phone up and going live or anything like that. And then now I've been doing a little bit about that, and there's a vulnerable sense of it. You're putting yourself out there for the world, and it seems like everybody on their keyboard, they got balls because they're just behind the keyboard and they want to say crazy stuff. And it's unfortunate because at the end of the day, I'm just trying to put out positivity, help motivate people, try to inspire people, which is, I'm sure, exactly what you're doing. And the only thing I can come up with is I feel like maybe a lot of, what you got going on, what I got going on makes people uncomfortable because they're so used to being comfortable.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That happens with like with fitness journeys too, or with your personal development. journey, the people around you will either accept it, or the people on social media will accept it, or they'll reject it. Because it's like you're holding up a mirror to their face and saying, this is what you are or aren't doing. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong with them or anything, but it might actually be something that they want to do, but they don't have the courage yet to do. So the way that they cope with it is by, well, I'm just going to put you down. And then maybe that'll make them feel a little bit better about it. But ultimately, a lot of the people that ended up, maybe making fun of me or poking fun at me, bringing my meals, ultimately ended up packing their meals, starting to work out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I can get it from that sense, but if I think about it that way, it makes me feel a little bit better.
Right. When I had originally got into running, and then I got into ultra running, and so people heard about these races that I was doing, running all these crazy miles, and a lot of people in the recovery community, their go-to would be like, well, you're just replacing one addiction for another. And they would try to find every single thing wrong with what I was doing, when at the end of the day, I can look at it and be like, this has put me around amazing people. They don't care that I was a drug addict. They don't care I've been in trouble before. They just care I'm showing up and running these miles. It's put structure back into my life. It makes me eat better, makes me go to bed earlier, makes me wake up earlier, makes me more consistent, like all these things. If you're going to tell me that's a bad thing, like I can't.
I know. It's like, how could that be a bad thing?
Right.
If it provides so many of these things for me and keeps me not an addict anymore.
Yeah. And then, but you take a look at, I would take a look at a lot of the people that would say things like that to me, and they might have like double the sobriety that I had, but they're miserable. Like it's like every time they speak, it's like vinegar coming out of their mouth. There's no positivity. And it's like, I look at that and it's like, man, he's 10 years sober or whatever it is. And it's like, is that what I got to look forward to? Like, I'm supposed to be like you now? Yeah. What I'm doing is wrong when I'm at 5 years sober, but I'm happy, healthy, never felt better, never looked better, but you're sitting there miserable at 10 years. It just doesn't compute or make sense. So that's what like helps me consider the source of where these things are coming from.
You're like, the math ain't mathin'.
Right, there you go. That's a very good way to put it. So when you originally got into the gym after the wrestling and all that, why bodybuilding? What made you gravitate towards that?
So I was really intimidated to get back into the gym because I had been an athlete from, 15 to 18. I did weightlifting. They made us run cross country in the morning to build up our stamina
for wrestling. Of any high school sport, wrestling was the most badass.
It is the most badass and one of the hardest. And then also they don't teach you how to diet to a weight class. So then there's that. That also came up later in my life. Yeah, we would do cross country, we would do weightlifting, and then we do wrestling. Sometimes I had an additional wrestling practice after that because I was the only girl. So they would bring in a actual girl coach that was a volunteer, and she would volunteer to come and help me because I didn't have anyone to train with, because it was I just would wrestle the boys. So she would come and train with me so I could get a better idea like what it was like actually wrestling a girl, because that's what I would compete with. So I was used to working out, and then you leave that, and a lot of high school athletes struggle with this when they leave and they don't continue. They have like an identity crisis. They're like, who am I?
Right.
Who am I if I'm not a wrestler? So I went and did hair, and I kind of felt that way, like who am I? And I started with like Pilates and like places where I can just like hide in the back and not feel like I was doing everything wrong. And then I was at a Pilates class and I saw this really like jacked teacher, and she was like a bikini competitor at the time who was a couple weeks out from a show. And I said, if I continue these classes, will I look like you? And she said, no. And I said, then I want to cancel my membership. Who's your coach? And so I started, that was my first bodybuilding coach.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool. So when you first got into the bodybuilding stuff, what did you, like with that style of training, were you just all in from the get-go or what?
Yeah, I very much was, and I did it for about like a year and a half with that one coach, and then I didn't want to be in bikini, and I didn't want to be in figure, so I was just in this kind of like limbo of like, what do I do? And I had made the decision that I wasn't going to compete, actually. Then I met my partner, and he was actually running one of the biggest bodybuilding teams in Austin at the time, and he also like encouraged, he's like, you just have the genetics for it. I think you'd be really good at it. So I started like acting as if like I was going to do it. And the wellness division got announced. And then I finally had a goal to focus on. I said, this is me.
Right.
This is me. I'm going to do this. So ever since they announced that it was going to release the year after, that was where I was going.
Really?
I didn't think I was going to become a pro
Yeah.
because I never competed before, but here we are.
Let's go. So over the years, I've trained men, women, both. Most of the people that I train, they're in the recovery community, and so they're just starting off in the gym.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you tell your clients, but one of the biggest thing I would always get with even the male clients, but specifically female clients, would be like, well, I don't want to get all big and bulky like you.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, trust me, it's more about how you eat, not how you work out. I work at it every single day. I'm still not where I want to be. Like, you don't just get big and bulky by accident.
Yeah.
And then I try to explain to women that most, your average woman, you don't have like the hormone profile to, you're not just going to go.
I wish.
Yeah. You're not
like,
just
I wish.
Right. But they're not, I'm like, and then they'll come with like, I want to tone up. So I'm just going to do high weight or low weight, high reps.
Tone up means I want muscle.
Right.
That's what it means. Tone up was just a made up word to make women feel better about the bulky thing.
So when you get a client that says, well, like, I don't want to be big and bulky, or I don't want to be this, like, how do you navigate that conversation with a female client?
Usually I say something like, I wish it was that easy.
Right.
I wish it was. Like, I feel, my opinion is that it is a lot harder to put on muscle than it is to like lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can lose body weight, especially being a wrestler. I could lose 5 pounds overnight.
Yeah.
We could just dwindle down our water and I can lose like 10 pounds in a week. Like, the scale doesn't matter as much, but that's what I usually tell them. Like, I wish it was that easy, and explain to them that it takes a lot of time and a lot of consistency, and your diet does need to be on point. And it's funny that you asked that. There's actually this trend going on TikTok where women say, like, one thing in my industry, I think it's like one thing that's true about like my industry that you wouldn't realize. And one of the things about the fitness girls is they're saying that, like, I actually did get bulky. Like, some of them are, saying that, yes, you will get bulky. Mm-hmm. And I understand where that comes from because I have too felt bulky with the amount of muscle that I have, but it's because I wasn't on my diet.
Right.
I've been 170 pounds at 5'2", but I also add a lot of muscle. So of course you're going to look bulky because not only do you have muscle, but you also have a lot of body fat over it. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, I think like I understand when women feel bulky, but it is really hard to put on muscle.
Yeah.
I wish it was easier.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, this is my life's passion here. And I mean, it drives me crazy at night. There was a girl, she works the desk at the gym I go to, and she's not a workout girl. She just works the desk. But I was walking out the other day and she's like, Shawn, she's like, you're looking smaller. And I kept walking. And I was like, wait a minute, what?
I'm offended.
Right. And she was like, and then she like was startled by saying that. And she goes, is that a bad thing? And I was like, it only goes against every single thing I work for every day of my life. And she's like, well, it's the shirt, it's this or that. And she was, at the end of the day, she was just messing with me. But it's funny how sensitive we get about those.
Oh, definitely.
Those things.
Well, because the older generation, that's a compliment.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking skinny, or you're looking thin, or did you lose weight? And now we're in a space where you have to really be careful about how you say things because it really can affect the way people feel about their body.
Right.
You tell a bodybuilder they look small and they want to cry.
Right.
So I totally understand that.
Right. That's fun. I didn't think of it like that about how it's changed with time.
It has.
Like, if you look back at the like Richard Simmons days when everybody was working out like that, do you know what I'm talking about? Or is
No.
You don't know?
Who's that?
Oh, man.
She's laughing.
Richard Simmons, you gotta Google him.
Okay.
He's one of a kind. He's a very.
Is he in the fitness space, bodybuilding?
No. Richard, if you see this, I'm sorry. He was never like he was just skinny.
Oh, okay.
And then he had like curly hair and would wear like the wristbands, and they would do like the no weights or anything, but it would be like all the people in the room doing what would you call it?
Oh,
Aerobics.
okay.
You don't know what I'm talking about?
Nope.
They're just doing a movie about him with Pauly Shore.
Oh, wow.
Do you know who that is?
Nope.
Oh, man.
My mom used to do the like is it Ty Bo?
There you go.
That guy? She used to do those in the living room. I remember that.
So if you take Tybo, then like 10 or 15 years before, he was that guy.
Okay.
It was the same stuff. I don't even remember why we're talking about him.
Oh yeah.
But,
Well, because you were saying like how times have changed.
Oh yeah,
It's like what's okay to say.
So back then, everybody
Yeah.
wanted to be skinny and
Yeah.
all that stuff, and now that's just not the.
Yeah, like I've even had to have conversations with like my mom about that, because when my mom grew up, like it was like, how can you be the thinnest, and the thinnest, and now we're more accepting of every single body type.
Yep.
So it's completely different, and it's probably a whirlwind for them too.
Right. How do you? So I mean, obviously you have a pretty big social media presence. How do you navigate that, like mental health wise, negativity wise, like because I was having a conversation not long ago and we were talking about what it would be like to grow up today, and is it more difficult to grow up today or not? And like at first I'd be like, no, it's way easier to grow up today. Everything just seems a little bit softer, but I didn't ever factor in the social media aspect and cyberbullying and all that.
True.
Grade school and high school was hard enough. I couldn't imagine going through it with social media. But so how do you navigate that?
I just make sure that I am good before I even get on social media, because we've all had those moments where like we go on social media and it like affects our whole day. You know, what we're consuming, whether it's from our eyes, what we're listening to on podcasts, it has a direct effect on how we operate. You know, things can cause anxiety, things can cause FOMO. You know, you start feeling envious of what other people have, whether it's real or it's not. So because it is my job and I love it so much, I have to make sure that I am good before I even go on social media. So one of my non-negotiables is my morning routine has to be complete before I even open up my phone. So that means like I'm waking up, I am doing my little skincare routine, then I'm going downstairs, I'm visualizing, I'm reading a chapter of a book that's educating me on something, and then I drive, still no phone, to go and do my fasted cardio. That's where I met you. And then once I get there, that's when I can open up my social media and answer any DMs, answer any comments, create the post that I want to post that day. But every time that I don't do that and I start the complete opposite with checking emails, checking text messages, looking on social media, I started a state of like anxiety and my day needs to go faster than it is. You might look at what somebody else is doing and feel envious or whatever it might be. We all felt that, you know. It might be one of your low days and something pops up and it makes you feel like even lower. So by me doing what I need to do for myself to feel positive and have my goal at the forefront of my mind every morning first, when I'm ready to take on the day, I'm ready to take it on. Right. Without letting everybody else impact me first.
That's so valuable what you're saying. Like, I don't think it just goes for, I mean, you kind of make somewhat of a living on social media. In a way, it's your marketing tool, but even for regular people, like that's a very valuable lesson. You know, I did 10 years in the military, and so I'm such a like regimented, I like my routine. If something knocks my routine off, it kind of messes up my whole morning. And the funny thing was about me meeting you is that knocked off my whole morning routine, because I started going over to Crunch across the street. Just it's closer to work, it's cheaper, the machines are a little bit better, the sauna's never broke. But then that one day the sauna wasn't working, and so then I had to come over to Gold's to use the sauna, and I just happened to glance up and I was like, oh shit.
That's crazy.
And so you and I had met briefly at a bodybuilding show in Belton, and we had went to the same massage therapist. And so I had seen your picture on the wall, and then I know you used to train with Rene. Shout out Rene.
I love Rene.
He's amazing. But yeah, it was crazy that I got to meet you that day, and you know, it was awesome to actually get to meet you and get you in here. So thank you for that.
Of course,
if I don't say it before we go. So with you being able to do that and start your days off like that, right? To somebody, let's say that follows you or you know watches what you do, what words of advice do you have for them? Like if they're trying to kind of pursue what you do or emulate what you do.
I would say starting with just one social media platform and like committing to that and getting really good at that, because it can be overwhelming. And with the aspect of what people are going to say about it, is that ultimately it's your choice to put yourself out there. So you don't have to do it, but you have to know that if you put yourself out there, you also open yourself up to everybody and their mom's opinions.
Yep.
Even user number 997 with no profile photo is going to be like, but it's your choice.
Right.
And if you really want to do that, you're going to have to be okay with people having their opinions, because they can have their opinions, whether they're dumb or they're not.
Right.
But that's what I would say is, like, I started with one social media platform. It was about 800 followers on Instagram, and they were all just from high school.
Mm-hmm.
And I started like without even showing my face. Like I would chop off my head and it was just like neck down. And you can see the progression of like my confidence starting to build, because I was so unsure about like how to go about this, and I was still scared, but I never gave up. Right. I just kept going. Even if the numbers didn't move, I knew that I had to be consistent at this thing if I wanted to be good at it. And that's what happens with anything that people try to go after, is like they expect to have the growth in like a week. They expect to have the weight loss in a week, the money, the house, the relationship, because we live in this like Amazon era where we can literally get whatever we want next day.
Immediate gratification.
Nothing is like that.
Yeah.
So I just like, regardless of what people said and of how many times I wanted to give up, I'll just keep giving value. I'll just keep posting content. And weirdly in 2020, that's when I would say like I blew up, because I quit my salon job. Mm-hmm. We went into a lockdown. I didn't know if I was going to make rent. I was like, oh, this is great. Signed my first client. And then all of a sudden, everybody needed an online coach because everyone was at home. So it was seriously divine timing by me listening to my intuition and going after that. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't have had a job, because the salon would have been shut down. So I listened to that. A couple months later, I had a job that I didn't need to go anywhere for.
Right.
So consistency, not giving up. I mean, it's such simple things, but it's true.
It really is. People they want to crack the code, but that's what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. What do you think was more difficult for you? Your first steps towards putting yourself out there on social media, or the first time you stepped on the bodybuilding stage?
Social media.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Just because more eyes?
I would say because the person that I am now, I now know that this is who I was supposed to be, but I'm still growing.
Yeah.
She would never be here on a podcast.
Okay.
She would never have had a YouTube channel. She would have never hold up her phone and talked about, something that she cared about or shared tips. I was naturally always the girl that like hid in the back. Of course, like when you got to know me, I'm very loud, I'm very silly, but naturally very introverted. I don't go out and do many things very often. And when I do, it's always something that I really care about. Mm-hmm. And I would have never thought that this is where I would be. So it took a lot of like busting through uncomfortability to get to where I am now. I mean, I would hold up a phone to do a story 8 times, 12 times. Yep. You sound so stupid. And then I would exit out, try again, exit out, try again. I would write a caption. It sounded dumb. I would write, and now I just pull up the phone. Yep. I just turn on the podcast. I just pull out my camera. And it took like little baby steps of me not showing my head, and then having the courage to finally film like a workout in the gym, and then maybe do one talking story. It was little by little. Yeah. I wasn't always like this.
Right. I had a good friend of mine, Claire Bays. She's very good at social media, and so her and I were talking, and I understand. I actually got into doing the podcast because I didn't want to do social media stuff, and they're like, "Well, if you do the podcast, that's your social media stuff right there. We just clip it out."
It is.
But the more and more now I understand, like, I have to put myself out there more on social media to continue to grow the podcast. So she gave me a little challenge about doing like 1 minute on my story each day.
Yeah.
And doing that. And I think it took me exactly what you're saying. My first 3 videos were 8-10 times, like, oh, that says dumb.
Like, oh, I sound like an idiot.
Right.
I fumbled my words. Now I fumble my words through things and still just post it. Because you get to the point where you don't care anymore. Right.
So that on my 4th one, I was just like, all right, fuck it. Like, this is just what it is. But that's what I want it to be, because like I'm told I'm very authentic and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so me redoing this video is not authentic. So if I flub a word or say something wrong, like, fuck it. That's what, when I watch
it's on brand.
Yeah. Exactly. When I watch people's videos, it doesn't matter to me if they mess up a word or I don't even think about it. So why am I doing that to myself?
Yeah. Because it's human,
Yep.
you know?
Right.
And that's the one thing that draws people away from social media is like, you know, everything's fake, everything's curated. And sometimes, yes, it is, you know, because we all want to be perfect, you know?
Yep.
We're striving to like have everyone think that we have it all together, we have it all figured out. And once you like release that, people enjoy you.
Yeah.
And you enjoy your life actually a lot more because nobody really relates to perfect because it doesn't exist.
Yeah. You're not having to wear this mask or put on this charade or act as if you're this person.
And putting on that charade and that act, I've done that too. You probably had that in your life. It's exhausting.
So bad.
It's exhausting being something that you're not.
Yeah.
And it's so freeing just being who you are and then dealing with some people are going to fall off.
Yeah.
You know, and I bet through your journey, you know, I can't relate to it, but I bet you had people that were in your life and then people that fell off and then in your life and then, you know, people that fell off. And that happens as you grow and as you change. And that could be a hard thing to go through. But if it gets you closer to becoming everything you were meant to be, you're put on this earth to do, then so be it.
I was going through exactly what you were saying. I was going through a time where there was some people that were close to me and that we were, you know, growing apart and all that, and it was hurting me. You know what I mean? These are people I thought I was going to be down with for life.
Yeah.
And a guy sent me a post, and I think it's Tyler Perry, and he's, I don't know if he's receiving an award or something like that, but he talks about there's people you thought were meant to be in your life for eternity, but they're only really meant to be in your life for a season.
Yeah.
And then he uses this example of like a rocket ship, you know, going into space. You know, it hits a certain point where the rockets fall off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The extra rockets fall off, and he goes, "That's how you need to kind of look at these people. It's like they're not bad people. They just weren't meant to go to the heights that you were, or whatever." And when he put it like that, I was like, "Oof, that's pretty good."
Some people are in your lives just like for a season, you know, to teach you something, for you to teach them something. Like it's vice versa, you know. And it's hard to not like cling to that, because once we see what the reality is, like we want to cling to the comfortability of what that past life is that we had. And I experienced that too when I was leaving my salon job and becoming a bodybuilder. Like they didn't understand it. Like they didn't want to bodybuild. They didn't think it was cool if I hit a PR, and there's nothing wrong with that because they were passionate about doing hair and about doing makeup and stuff. So it was just completely different, and I was alone for that. I felt so lonely when I was like, how does me doing what I love to do and what I feel like I was put here to do feel so lonely?
Yeah.
You know, and then eventually, you know, I found my group.
Yeah. You just said the key word, passion. Like, how cool is it for you to have had this salon job, which was, I'm sure was cool and you enjoyed it, but then to transition to like, you literally live in your passion as a form of the way you make your living now. Like, how cool is that transition?
I mean, it's crazy. Sometimes like I forget.
Really?
Like it's so easy to get caught up in like the next thing that you want to do. You know, every time that we're thinking about the past, you know, we're feeling some type of like depression. Every time we're thinking about, you know, the future, we get like anxiety. So a lot of us are living in that like what's next without sitting in what we have accomplished like right now. And sometimes I forget that the exact life that I wanted is the one that I have now. I still have more aspirations and things I want to accomplish, but it's so easy to forget. And it's just crazy that I decided one day that I was going to go for it, and I got everything that I ever wanted from that one decision. Like it's crazy.
Yeah. Do you have a moment or an instance where you can think of where it like finally dawned on you that you were like, holy shit, like I'm living in my passion right now. Like this is real.
It used to be when I first got into being an entrepreneur and starting to bodybuild. It used to be that, but recently, last year, I ran my first women's empowerment retreat, which is called the Know Your Power Retreat. And that's what my whole brand is based off of. But I ran that, and I thought that me winning shows, you know, becoming a content creator and having these amazing experiences with all these people in the industry was the greatest thing that ever happened. But hosting that retreat was the greatest day of my entire life.
Really?
And it had nothing to do with fitness.
Really?
Nothing.
That's awesome.
And the women that come are always like, wait, what? It's not a fitness event? I'm like, no, it's not.
Right.
And that because it combines the two worlds that I really love, which is like personal development and fitness. Like we had a lot of fitness girlies come, but what we were really working on is like their relationship with themselves. So I think that day, and that was still recently, it was like 2023, that's when I was like, I am truly living my passion and what I was put here to do. Even though like this little bodybuilder is like running this retreat or whatever, this is what I was put here to do.
Right.
Yeah.
Couldn't have said it better myself. There's so many times in my life now, like doing what I do, it's like this, I'm doing what I was meant to do. Some form or fashion. Like you said, I still have goals and all that, but I'm living in what I was meant to do.
Like you're living in the good old days.
Yeah. This is what, and it's funny because I've wasted so much of my life with, you know, with addiction and stuff and being in trouble. And so it's like now I'm 41 and it's just like, I just got to the point where I'm like.
You're like, I just started like a new life.
Yeah.
I've just restarted everything.
Right. I have a beautiful wife, beautiful home, like a dog, like things I never thought would be a possibility in my life. And it's like, I take a look around, I have amazing friends, I have this awesome podcast. It's like, holy shit. Like
I did this shit.
Somebody's going to pull the rug out for me any minute.
I know. Sometimes it feels like that. Like, am I in a dream?
Right. It is for sure. How did how did the women's empowerment, how did this come about? Like, did you create the structure of it and everything, or?
So I started with the phrase "you're more powerful than you think." From the minute that I started my brand, I'd say it was 2019 is when I decided to quit my salon job, and 2020 is when I actually started my business. I don't even know. I was on a podcast yesterday, and he asked me where it came from. I have no idea.
Really?
I don't know where I heard the phrase, but it has stuck with me all over the years, and it's what I live by. And the reason being is because there's so many things like in this world, especially for women, that strip our power every day. So one of the biggest people that does it to ourselves is us. And
in what way?
I mean, with putting our bodies down, how we speak, you know, what we wear, what we do and do not say, boundaries that we do and do not set. Like, we're stripping our power so much, and other people are doing it to us too, and putting us in little bubbles. People have tried to put me in bubbles since I was a kid. Like, no, girls don't wrestle, you know, girls dance. And girls don't bodybuild. Right. You know, girls go and be a hairstylist. You know what I mean? And when I realized how powerful I really was, is that if I am powerful enough to create so much suffering for myself, why wouldn't I be powerful enough to create everything that I ever want? And I saw myself slowly start doing that as I quit my job, went after the thing that I wanted. I wanted to be a content creator. I wanted to work from home. I wanted to have this business, and I wanted to spread the message of like, I am so much more powerful than I realized. Yeah. And I want all the women that follow me around the world, I want them to know that too. Yeah. And so that's where the brand came from. That's where all my coaching clients are. My podcast is the Know Your Power podcast. And then we started just recently, last year, the Know Your Power women's retreats, where we spend the first day, we doing like a little girls like hang where all the girls come together. It's like sleepover vibes, and we just get to know each other. The Saturday is like the entire workshop. Like, have you ever been to a event that's like maybe like a motivational thing or entrepreneur thing, and like you leave there and you're so motivated, but then you're like, wait, what do I do with this information? Yep. We give the women a chance to practice it right then and there. That's cool. Because the only way that you can change and get better is by actually changing something. If you want something to change, you have to change. So we give them an opportunity right then and there in the workshop to change it. Right. And the next day is like a girl's leg day. So it has a little bit of fitness in it, you know, but it was the greatest day of my entire life. And all the women there, from what they said, they know their power. Right.
So I remember earlier you had said like you don't identify with, you know, like my story or whatever, right? But there's so many similarities in it because like what you're saying about getting people to understand, you know what I mean, that they have that in them. Damn, there was something you just said that I forgot already. When you were talking about the retreat.
Shit. Getting them to like actually practice it, like In real life?
Yeah, I forgot where I was going with it. I just drew a blank. Damn it.
Maybe it'll come up.
But no, it's when, so in my life, like there was so many things I was so ashamed of that I had done. Being in trouble, getting on drugs, all this. And at the end of the day, now where I'm at, like I'm unique because of all that pain and all that suffering and all these things. Now I'm uniquely qualified to take that experience and use that to help people.
Yes.
And so like I wouldn't change a thing. I would go through it all over again because I love who I am today. I love being able to help the people I do. And when you're able to do something for a living and like it's cool, everybody needs a job. You go in, you clock in, you do your work. Mm-hmm. When that job comes in to helping people and you watch it start changing their lives or get some of the messages I'm sure you get. I know every time I get one of them, it's just like, holy shit, like how did I take all that wreckage and turn it into this to actually help people? It adds a whole nother layer to life and like actually gives you purpose and fulfillment that I had never felt before. And so that's like my goal with the podcast and my message with everything I'm doing is trying to get people to understand. It's like, yeah, my story might have been drug addiction, right? Yes. But we all have this unique life experience, and the goal is if you make it through that stuff, you know, the trials and tribulations, and then you just go on about live your life, like it was kind of all a waste for nothing, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't go back and use that to help people, then what was it all for? Yeah. And so just trying to get people to understand, like you have power in your own story because you've been through things I've never been through. Yeah. Everybody in this room has been through things we haven't been through.
Exactly. I mean, we're no different. Me and you are no different. We have different like experiences that we've been through, but one thing is the same, is that we've turned our pain into power, and we want to show others how they can do that too.
Right. You said earlier that you guys do a leg day.
Yes.
So I just learned this. I didn't realize that women skip upper body day like men skip leg day.
Yes.
I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah, and for some reason, men get mad when women skip upper body day, but then when they have upper body muscle, they're also mad. This isn't all men.
Oh, good point.
Yeah. It's like, we can't win. Right. We can't win. But for me, I do only do one upper body day because I can't make it any bigger for the division I'm trying to fit into. Do I want to do more? Yes. Do I like doing 3 leg days? Sometimes no. Right. But I'm trying to fit into a division. You know what I mean? Right. And bodybuilding you don't even have to be a bodybuilder. People deserve to build their body in whichever way they want. Absolutely. You know? And of course, like it'd be nice if guys train legs a little bit more. And I guess maybe it would be nice if girls train upper body a little bit more, but ultimately how people want to build their physiques is how they want to build their physiques.
Yeah. Makes you happy, do it. Mm-hmm. For those that listening that may not understand like the divisions within bodybuilding and stuff like that, your division is the
wellness
division. Yeah. And so for somebody that doesn't know what that is, could you explain it to them?
So the wellness division is a little bit more muscular than bikini, but less muscular than figure in the sense of it's the only division they don't look for symmetry. Okay. So in all the other divisions, they look for like X frame, where your shoulders and your legs are like symmetrical. Mm-hmm. And wellness, they want your lower body to dominate your upper body. That's why I only have one upper body day, because it's already where it needs to be. I just need to maintain it. And I think that that's attracted a lot of women to the division because there's a specific look that each person wants and identifies with, you know, and they're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, I want big glutes and big legs. Like, I want to go to that division. And also just genetically, you know, I would probably never fit into the bikini category because of just, I can put on muscle relatively easy. You know, I'm very short and pretty stocky. You know, it's like I would never fit there. Wellness was perfect for me. So you also have to think about that. You're like, where do you build best genetically, and how do you want your physique to look when you're picking a division?
Yeah. It's so funny. I always feel like you always want what you can't have in life. And so it's like, has there been points in your life where you wish you were a blonde?
I think when I was little.
Or like wish you had curly hair when you had straight hair?
Yeah, I've always wished like maybe I had colored eyes, or you know what I mean? Okay. Like more when I was little, but now it's more like I'm accepting who I am.
Well, I think I want to look like a short, stocky bodybuilder, but I'm tall, and that's just not probably in the cards for me. But it's funny how...
you got those longer muscle bellies.
I know, and it's frustrating.
I know.
I hate it.
For me, like I can have less muscle than a taller girl, but I look way muscular because my muscle bellies are like meep. Right. So it's like a lot in a small space.
I'll see some shorter guys in the gym or whatever, and they have shit form, shit programming, shit all this stuff, but they just trip over a weight and grow because they're just short and stocky. Like, you motherfucker.
That's me.
Is it?
Yeah, I look at my legs wrong and they grow.
Oh, I wish I had that. I wish I had that itch.
Yeah.
I think I have all type 2 muscle fibers in my legs.
Yeah.
They're meant for endurance, not lifting.
All that running that you did. I can't run at all, though.
None?
No.
You could.
Like, my ankles swell, my thighs rub. It's a bad time.
It's a whole thing?
Yeah.
So what's your preferred cardio?
Stairmaster.
Stairmaster?
I could do that for hours.
Really?
I could do that all day. Yeah.
When I originally got into the gym, I was still doing most of my running, and so I was afraid to go down there and get down on the weights, and so I'd do like a lot of cardio stuff. So it was just hours on the stair climber or the what's it called, the Versa machine. You know what I'm talking about?
An elliptical?
No, Versa. Where they have the 2 handles and the 2 pedals.
Oh yeah.
Versa climber.
Okay.
Jesus, but I would do hours on that.
Oh my
And then,
God.
or no, I wouldn't do hours on that. So do you know? So there was a gentleman that I was good friends with. He's like the most winningest 100-mile runner and all this stuff. He's from Austin. His name's Paul Terranova. And so I was sitting there talking with him, and he's a champion 100-mile race runner and everything like that. And so I was doing time on the Versa climber. I mean, if you do a minute on the Versa climber, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
And so I was talking with him, and he's like, hey, I do that too. He's like, I'll hop on there for like 15 minutes. And I was like, you what? 15 minutes in a row? He's like, oh, yeah. And so I was bound and determined, like, all right, I'm going to go in there and do 15 minutes. And so I went in the next day, and I did 5. And then the next day I did 15. I was like, all right, I'm going to beat this shit. And so I went in and I did 30 minutes on the Versa climber. Like, I had huge puddles of sweat on the ground.
Oh my God.
Felt so great about it. And then the next morning, I'm sitting there having coffee, watching YouTube, and a video of David Goggins comes up, and he does it for like 3.5 hours. And I was just like, this.
Oh, you're like, I give up now.
Never
mind.
Can't even get one win. Just can't even enjoy it for a second.
You won for yourself.
You're right.
Yeah, that's
You're
what
right.
matters.
Who are your inspirations? Like growing up or even today, like who are the people that, do you have people that still like make you raise the bar?
I would say growing up, I can't really remember anybody, but more so now, it's like, of course, I look up to like the wellness Olympians and a lot of women, like more so in like the personal development state. Like I love Mel Robbins. She's
Okay.
awesome. Stuff like that, but that's really all I can think about.
Really?
Yeah.
Who inspired your brother?
I have no idea.
You don't know whose posters were on his wall?
Probably basketball players.
Was it?
Yeah.
Mine too.
Yes. Probably the Spurs.
Okay. I was misguided and thought I was going to be in the NBA, but I just
Really?
Yeah, I neglected the fact I couldn't jump, and I was white. So
My brother was short, so it wasn't going to pan out.
That's why I picked, of all sport, like there's 11 on the football field, 9 on the baseball field. Let's pick basketball where there's only 5 and very rarely a white guy out there. But so I picked that one, and
I think you would have been good at football.
I was good, but I don't know. I was young and dumb. Not much life experience
Didn't
to compare
choose
it
the
to.
right sport.
Did not at all. But it all worked out the way it should.
Exactly.
So, fun question for you. Tonight, you're walking out for the women's UFC heavyweight championship of the world. What is your walkout song? What is that one song that just gets you going?
Dang. I don't know. It would probably have to be like something from Nicki Minaj.
Okay.
I can't remember the songs. It would probably be Nicki Minaj. Because
Is that-
she's just like, every song is like, she's the queen. And that's how I would want to walk out. It's like, I'm the queen. Because
Right.
like, whenever you walk into any room, you want to walk in like, what would the most confident version of me be like? And I feel like that's it.
Right.
Yeah.
How different is it for you to walk into a room before you started lifting weights and now?
Before, it was like, even just like the way that your body moves around life, you're like, your shoulders are forward, you cower, like your head, you're hiding it. You don't really make eye contact. Maybe like you look down at your feet. And now it's like you walk into a room like chest high.
Yep.
If you're a wellness competitor, your glutes are raised. Because that's what they teach you. You make eye contact, like you speak directly. It's completely different.
Right. I tell people all the time, like when I got into running, mental health wise, running got me back to being like who I was supposed to be. You know what I mean? I felt like I was just kind of, everything hadn't connected for me yet, but it got me back to being me. It was like, all right, I feel like Shawn again. And then when I got into the gym, you know what I mean, and stayed in there consistently for a couple months and started to kind of transform and all that, that made me like who I was supposed to be.
Yes.
Walking into a room with confidence, the way people interact with you. And then you see on social media all the time, people put videos out there, and it's like, you look at people and you see that they're in shape, and you're like, all right, they're disciplined. You know what I mean? They're consistent people. They're obviously sticking with it and all that. And it translates so much to regular life. I don't want people to hear me say that and just be like, oh, they're meathead. That's all they talk about is working out. And I'm like, it's a metaphor for life, man. If you don't see it, you better check it out.
I mean, yeah, back to even what we talked about at the beginning, it's like a lot of it is just being your word and doing what you say you're going to do. Most of us feel so bad, like in our personal lives, is because every day, like, we say we're going to get up on time and then we don't. We say we're going to eat healthy and we don't. We say we're going to stop going out, stop drinking, and we don't. It feels bad. It feels bad to say you're going to do something, not be integrity with that, and then just keep slipping back into those old patterns. Right. So when you feel that way all the time walking around, of course you're not going to be like your best self. So when you start going to the gym because you said you were going to, when you roll over and you don't snooze your alarm because you said you were going to wake up at a specific time, that's not just with working out. It's you being in integrity in your relationship and being your word and saying you're going to be somewhere when you are. You're going to be the type of man or woman or partner that you say you're going to be, and you are. It doesn't just translate into just fitness.
Right.
It's everything. Everything that I learned from bodybuilding, I've taken into my relationships, taken into my business and my relationships with my family. It's made me a better person.
Right. That's awesome. What did it feel like when you got your pro card?
It was crazy.
Was it?
Because...
Did you know you were going to get it, though?
Yes.
All right.
Because I have this... on my YouTube channel, I do this intro every single time. And it's a specific song. You know, I do my little intro, and then that plays, and it's like my videographer made a whole thing of me, like, lifting through the years. And there's an announcer at the very end of that intro that says, and your new IFBB Pro, Julia Rene. And there's a reason that I've kept that in there, because when I was prepping for my pro card, every single morning, I would visualize me on stage. I looked perfect. My posing was on point. And then I felt gratitude for that already happening, that already being in my life. Every single morning on the Stairmaster. So when I first went to get my pro card, I got 5th. And I was so upset. I was on a winning streak. I won my first 2 shows. I got a sponsorship too. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to walk in. I'm just going to get this. So I needed that to humble me.
Yep.
And I was so like, I did everything right. How did I not get this? 2 weeks later, I get my pro card. I was more ready. I looked even better. I was even more confident. And it turns out that the person's voice that was announcing at that first show, he wasn't the announcer that I was hearing in my head when I was visualizing. It was a specific announcer.
Really?
And at that second show, he was there announcing the pro cards. So when I heard my name being called, he said, and your new IFBB Pro, Julia Rene. I was like, I wasn't supposed to get my pro card at that last one.
Really?
It was supposed to be this one.
Wow.
So it was just like this whole like wild thing that like once you combined like your efforts and the belief in yourself and you start accepting that, like the feeling like the gratitude for that thing that you want, that it's already yours. It's just a matter of time. Like when all of those like combined, it just combined in like the perfect moment. And I was like, this is when I was supposed to get it.
Really?
Yeah.
So what's your goals with bodybuilding? Are we going to see you on the Olympia stage?
Yes. That's my goal this year.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go. Mm-hmm. Let's go. Do you find with lifting, is it better for you, like at the level you're at? Do you like go seek out gyms and certain trainers to like continue to learn, or do you just kind of stick with what you've been doing?
I mean, I usually follow like what my coach is telling me to do. But I'm always open to, especially like with what I do with content creating, I have the opportunity to work out with a lot of bodybuilders and fitness people in the space. And every time I do that, like I learn so much. And I love doing that because it is easy to get stuck in like your own routine that you do. And like usually the closer that I get to a show, that's when I actually will like schedule someone to train me once a week, because you start losing the energy, the motivation, you know, little food, lots of cardio. So that's usually what I do.
Gotcha. What is your least favorite part about bodybuilding?
My least favorite part about bodybuilding, oh, that's hard. I do like it all, even if if it does suck.
Right.
But
there's nothing like talking to a bodybuilder when they're just about to get to the show.
I know.
It's so
they're like, I got this.
It's number one, it's all they talk about is the food and the low calories and the carbs and all that stuff. It's sitting on my side. Like I don't have aspirations to ever like do a show. I just want to keep getting better, see what I could do. I'm 40 now. Like I don't know how far can I continue to push my body and all that. Yeah. I do know I need to start stretching and taking care of myself a little bit more instead of beating myself up.
I would say like usually about 4 weeks and 3 weeks out are the worst. Because 2 weeks out, and usually my peak weeks are a little bit better. People are always saying that like the peak week was the worst. But usually you should be getting more carbs and filling up. It should feel a little bit better. But usually week 4 and 3 are like the worst. Just the fatigue that you feel. And you can't really do anything about it. You can get all the massages. You can go to the chiropractor. You know, you can do all the things. But you still got to show up and do your cardio. You still have to go to the gym. So I think my least favorite part is like losing strength and feeling so fatigued during that time. Because you look so good.
Right.
But you don't look like you don't feel like you lift, because you're like, you can't, I'm doing like half the weight I normally can. I'm like fatigued. I look like a skeleton. I'd say those 2 weeks are the worst.
Right. It's so much mental. It's mentally difficult. My favorite reference when I was first getting into the working out stuff, I started following all the fitness pages and certain people. I saw a meme and it said, "This is me when I decided I was going to go to the gym and achieve the physique of a Greek god." And it was like me when I realized all I did was give myself a horrible case of body dysmorphia.
Yeah, so true.
And it said like people that maybe not hear that and understand like, why would I want to get into that? It's still the most rewarding thing you'll do, but you start paying so much more attention to your body and how it looks and if you're hydrated, if you're not hydrated, what you ate the day before, and you start picking up on all those things. You
just know too much now.
Right. Right. What fasted cardio is that? So I've heard people that have debunked it and saying that it doesn't matter, and then people that do. What's your feelings?
I just feel like
you just like it.
I just do it because it's my routine.
Okay.
You know, I don't think there's any more benefits to doing it fasted than not fasted. For me with cardio, it's like, because people just hate it so much, whatever you need to do to get it done, that's the right kind of cardio to do.
Right.
It doesn't, people are like, is the Stairmaster better? Should I be doing the Stairmaster? I just do it because I like it. I could do it forever. It gets my heart rate up, and I can DM people at the same time. So it's nothing special to me. It's just, this is what I enjoy and what fits into my routine. So I think the best kind of cardio is the cardio you're actually going to do.
Right. Yeah. I'd stepped away from running for a long time just because I became so passionate about the gym. And then now I've been slacking on doing cardio and all that. And so my buddy's like, well, bro, just go up and do the treadmill. I was like, I fucking hate the treadmill. I'm not doing the treadmill.
I hate stand still walking.
Yeah. And you're just sitting there looking at the same whatever dumb channel they have on and all that. I know. But, you know, just recently within the past weeks, I've gotten back out into running. And so that's what you're saying is true. And it's the same way I would program any of my clients. Like, if you hate running, I'm never going to tell you to go run because you're not going to do it. Yeah. And so just finding what
you're not going to like be intense with it either because you hate it.
Right. Because the whole time you're just sitting there like, fuck this. I want to be done. I want to be done. But what, so somebody listening to this, they, you know, they've heard your story. They're super inspired. What would be your one piece of advice that you could give them? Like one little nugget that you wish you would have known at the beginning.
I wish I would have known how powerful I was.
Really?
Yeah.
You heard it here.
You heard it here.
The When is that? When's the next women's retreat you got coming up?
April 19th through the 21st.
April 19th. And
in
so
Austin.
if somebody wanted to join that, how would they go about, or is there spots left?
Right now there still is.
Okay.
Yes.
So would they go on a website, your social
They can go
media?
to my Instagram.
Okay.
Yeah. My Instagram's _Julia Rene with 1 E, and it's like the first link at the top. And even if they can't make that one, we have them every year. We also run like little actual women's like wellness retreats, like for the wellness girls that are interested in like learning posing, learning how we train. We're also thinking about doing those at the end of this year too.
Let's go. Are you going to work it to the point where you'd have multiple a year, you think, or do you really only have the capacity for one?
Right now, with just where we're at and still being so new, like eventually we'd want to have like 2 a year, a spring and a fall, and start having them all over. My goal with it is to have them all over the United States and to have like tons of women there. Right now we have a small team, but they're volunteers, and they're my friends that have been through the experience themselves, and they just really align with it. So eventually, like, we want it to be a lot bigger so we can reach more women.
That'd be wild.
I know.
In 10 years to look around and there's 25 of them around the country, that'd be crazy.
I know.
You're going to do it.
Yeah.
I could see it for sure.
Yep.
So I can't thank you enough for taking the time to make the drive and come on today. I already know that you're a major inspiration for so many women.
Shit.
Men too. You've been kicking their ass for a long time, so they could take a...
Glad someone said it.
Right? So the way we like to wrap up the podcast is they've heard your story. They kind of know who you are, but I'd like them to know a little bit more intimately. So if you'd be willing, if you'd take a look into your camera, maybe throw out some I am statements to let them know who you are.
I am courageous. I am kind. I am brave. And I am powerful.